Pokemon fans, I'm Professor K for the Pokemon Evolutionaries, and today we've got another competitive deck profile for you guys. This one is going to be a little bit different than the ones we've done before in the essence that this is actually one of the cheapest, most powerful decks to build in the format right now. It's done a lot of good things for me. It's won a lot of really good matches for me as well. Not to mention, like I said, this deck is so cheap to build. There's only one card in here that's actually kind of expensive, but overall, it's a pretty good budget build deck. And because of that, you guys aren't going to see the full art supporters like you're used to, just for that reason, and for the newer players out there that want to play something really effective, but may not necessarily have all the money to spend on a deck that is top tier, that has a lot of those more expensive cards out there. And that deck today is going to be Donphan Trevenant. You guys have seen quite a few videos featuring that deck, so let's go ahead and see what this deck is actually all about, what it's built, how it's built, and how it works. So of course, Donphan, it would not exist without Phanpy. So we're going to run a 4-4 line. We've got 4 Phanpy here from Plasma Storm. Now this is a set that is getting harder to come by, so maybe a little bit difficult to come across them, but again, these are common and uncommon cards, so even then, you're only looking at spending maybe a couple of bucks per card, as opposed to something like, well, Seismitoad EX, which goes for 15 to 20. I've never really seen it any less than 15. Even then, that's a steal if you can find it, so got that. And of course, we run 4 copies of Donphan. Now the main feature of Donphan here is its attack spinning turn. For 1 fighting energy, does 40 damage, and you switch this Pokemon with one of your own benched Pokemon after you attack. What makes this so good is all the fighting support that has come out with the Furious Fist set. Now of course Furious Fist has been out for a little while now, we all know what's in the set. Strong Energy gives you an extra 20, with a Muscle Band you're looking at 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 total damage. And of course there's other ways to increase that damage even further, so it becomes powerful in a hurry. Now the best thing about Donphan is being able to get out of that active spot into something that's going to lock your opponent down. What better way to lock your opponent down than going back to the old Trevenant strategy. So to do that, we've got 3 copies of Phantump here that we can evolve into Trevenant. I feel that a 3-3 line is very effective, does the job the way it's supposed to, and has actually done very well for me. This deck has won me about 80% of my matches. It's a pretty good win-to-loss ratio, especially in the online. You guys have actually seen how well it does. I think I've only lost a couple of matches online with that. So of course here we've got Trevenant, and Trevenant, its ability, Forest Curse. When this Pokemon is in the active position, your opponent can't play any item cards from their hand. It's essentially Seismitoad without damage. So this is just going to sit there in the active spot while we use Spinning Turn back and forth. But there's one thing though. Trevenant, as you can see, has a 3 retreat cost, so we've got to find ways to get that out of the active spot. How are we going to do that? Well, let's find out here shortly. But first, let's take a look at some of the alternatives here. If you're facing something that's powered up and ready to go already, doesn't need the items, but it's an EX Pokemon, you can always use Suicune. Suicune's Safeguard ability will prevent you from getting hurt by Pokemon EX, which is an awesome, awesome thing, especially in a format where EXs do dominate to this day still. So you do have a couple options here, being able to go back and forth between Trevenant or Suicune after you use Spinning Turn. Now there is one more Pokemon I added to this deck, and you can actually swap it out, considering that this is a budget deck. If it's something that you can't afford, it is one of the most expensive cards in the game right now, and that is a single copy of Landorus EX. The best substitution for this card that I have found is to be able to get in and out of the active spot, get out of special conditions and stuff like that. If you can't retreat, is going to be a Keldeo EX. I've seen it in decks, I've seen it work quite well. If you can't afford a Landorus, then that's the way to go for sure. But Landorus, with its first attack, Hammerhead, being able to hit for 30 damage and 30 to the bench, is just really, really good. And there's just no other way of saying it. I mean, Landorus is an excellent card in this format. With the fighting support that's out there with Strong Energy, you just can't do wrong with it. So, Landorus is at least a 1-of in this deck, and I feel that 1 is good enough, especially when you're looking for a wall, to maybe buy you some time while you're setting up your Donphan or your Trevenant. So that's the Pokemon lineup here. If I'm correct here, it's 17 Pokemon. 8 and 6 is 14, 15, 16, yep, 17 Pokemon. So it is a fairly high number of Pokemon, but it definitely does the job once it gets set up. And with this kind of support, this deck sets up very, very fast. It's very effective. It's almost tier 1, if not the very bottom rung of tier 1. So it's definitely exciting. So what else can we do to this deck? Let's look at the support lineup. 3 copies of Professor Sycamore. Like I said, guys, this is a building on a budget type of deck, so Sycamore is probably going to be your cheapest option, easiest to get a hold of right now, over Juniper. And, of course, non-full arts are a lot cheaper than the full art version. Also, we've got 3 copies of N. These are League Promo N that were actually given away if you're a member of Pokemon League. Black and White Promo number 100. That was the easiest one to obtain. I've got 3 copies of them here. And we all know what N does. Shuffle your hand in, draw 6 cards. Sycamore, discard your hand and draw 7 cards. So, good supporter for drawing and things like that. To further aid the draw support, we've got 3 copies of Colress. Colress is a big draw support engine in this game with this deck, considering that you're going to have a lot of stuff on the bench. You're going to want to have Trevenant powered up, ready to go, evolved anyways, I should say. You're going to want to have Donphans ready to go just in case one happens to get sniped down by a Landorus, or if one happens to get Lysandered up and knocked out by something else. Even though Donphan does have 130 HP, it makes it very hard to knock out with one hit. It is still possible with some of those really big, powerful Pokemon EX that are out there today. So, always good to have as many of them ready to go as possible. Now, the best supporter that comes with this deck right now is Karina. Karina lets you look through your deck, find a fighting Pokemon and a tool card, or an item card. Typically you'll want to go for a tool card, whether it be a Muscle Band or a Float Stone or something of that nature. It's just really, really good and really, really powerful. And especially when you're wanting to get Donphans, if you got Phanpies out there, you can Karina for a Donphan and a Muscle Band, throw down a strong energy and just start doing some serious damage with Spinning Turn. Our last supporter in this deck is going to be 2 copies of Lysander. Being able to get anything out off of your opponent's bench, it's a free Pokemon catcher, and granted you got to use supporter for the turn, but it allows us to knock out whatever we want or get something up into the active spot that's going to make your opponent get stuck. That's always a really good thing and well worth the places in the deck. Now, again, we're going to want to make sure that we're able to retreat, and with the high retreat cost of Trevenant and the 2 retreat cost of Suicune, the only real good way to consistently get out of the active spot is to run 4 copies of Float Stone. Attach this Pokemon tool card to one of your Pokemon and they have a free retreat cost. So now you're going to be able to attach one of these Float Stones to a Trevenant, like so. Donphan's up in the active spot, use a Spinning Turn, goes back to the bench, Trevenant comes up, and then blocks your opponent's Pokemon from using item cards. And at the end of their turn, you're able to retreat back into Donphan and do it all over again. So it's a really good synergistic combo. It's a lot like Excelgor Trevenant, or even Gothitelle, Excelgor Gothitelle, even further back than that. Lock decks have been around for a very long time, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. Again, we're going to want to use Pokemon tool cards that can do some damage here. The best one to use with Donphan is going to be Muscle Band. Hitting for an extra 20 damage. You could use Silver Bangles as well, but I find that doing the extra 20 guaranteed is a whole lot better than risking it for an extra 10 on top of that. So, we just run 3 copies of Muscle Band, no Silver Bangle whatsoever. Now, we do have quite the evolutionary lines here between Donphan and Trevenant. We're looking at 7 total Stage 1 Pokemon, and sometimes you might have a little bit of trouble drawing into them, so the best way to go about that is to use Evosoda. This is mainly for Trevenant because Karina will allow you to get your Donphans, but this just works as well wherever you need it. Allows you to search your deck for the next stage Pokemon and evolve as long as it's been in the, on the bench long enough, or in the active position. Now, given that we have Karina, sometimes it's not so hard to necessarily get into our Pokemon, but nonetheless, every single deck is going to need to find a way to draw into your Pokemon. And Ultra Ball is the way to do it most of the time. And with we've lost a lot of balls in rotation and things like that, but Ultra Ball stuck around. Discard 2 cards and search your deck for any Pokemon that you want. We only got 2 copies of this just because getting into Pokemon is not a hard thing in this deck, especially with Karina. And not to mention the high count in general, it's not necessarily hard to get what we need. So we just run 2 copies of Ultra Ball and it works well. I've never been hurting for Pokemon. Always done well with it, so if it served me well, I'm sure it will do the same for you. Now again, this is another deck where Garbodor can do some damage with our locked Pokemon. Trevenant puts down a lock on items, Suicune puts a lockdown on Pokemon EX. So Garbodor will definitely do some damage to this deck. You know, being able to lock the items and lock yourself out of an EX attack is huge in this deck. It really puts you susceptible if Garbodor's in play. So the only way to get rid of that is to run some Startling Megaphone, and we run the deck standard of 2. Being able to discard all your opponent's tool cards in one shot. Buys you some time until maybe they get back into that Floatstone or whatever they're going to attach to their Garbodor, and hopefully you're drawn to another one by then. But this deck is so quick and so powerful that I really don't fear Garbodor in this case. Now, even though the best thing that this deck can do is draw into strong energy, sometimes you just can't do that, and you're going to need to get hold of some fighting energy. So to do that, we've got 1 single copy of Professor's Letter. It allows us to search our deck for 2 basic energy cards and put them into our hand. And in a deck where we only need 1 energy to attack, it's definitely a good thing to have those energies in range. We've got Landorus that can hit for 30 damage with 1 regular energy, and we've got Donphan that hit for 40 for 1. So definitely, you know, a lot of quick, powerful attackers, and only requiring just such a low energy count. It's worthwhile to run at least 1 copy of Professor's Letter, just in case you don't get the strong energy like you hope to get. Again, you're looking at a deck here that's Stage 1 Pokemon. You're going to lose some down the line, so running a single copy of Sacred Ash to get those Pokemon back into your deck is always a really good thing. It's saved me quite a few times, especially if I've ever come into a situation where I can't do anything for a while, and I'm just getting sniped left and right. This has saved me and won me quite a few matches. Just that 1 copy can make a huge difference. Now, like I said before, you can run a Landorus like I do, or you can run a Keldeo, but if you do choose to run the Landorus, sometimes you might get stuck in the active position with any of these Pokemon and not be able to retreat because of sleep or paralyzation or anything like that. So we still run a couple switching cards. We've got a single copy of Switch, and we've got a copy of Escape Rope. Just to get out of the active spot, just to get away from those pesky special conditions. Always cause a lot of problems. So that will get you right out of it, and Escape Rope, of course, will also force your opponent to switch their Pokemon as well. Our Stadium card of choice in this deck is going to be Fighting Stadium. Being able to hit for extra damage to your opponent's Pokemon EX, 20 damage to be exact, no matter what you've got, as long as you're playing a fighting Pokemon and you're hitting a Pokemon EX, always a great thing. It even boosts Landorus. So now you're going from 30 to 50. And with a Muscle Band, you're going to 70. With a Strong Energy, you're going to 90 for 1 energy. It's just way too powerful to ignore. And not to mention Donphan over here being able to hit for 40, with a Muscle Band hitting for 60, Strong Energy hitting for 80, and Fighting Stadium hitting for 100 damage. It's just way too powerful. Speaking of Strong Energy, we run the max that you can run in the deck, which is going to be 4 copies of that Strong Energy. Attach it to a fighting Pokemon, and they automatically do 20 more damage for all of their attacks. It's just too good. It really is. It's just too good. This set was so focused on overpowering attacks, didn't necessarily get a whole lot of energy acceleration or anything like that, but just sheer power alone made a huge difference with this. Being such a low energy deck, we really don't need a whole lot. We use those 4 strong energy, and we only run 5 copies of regular fighting energy. Not to mention, it's a deck that we really can't afford to give up a lot of resources to. The energy count, because you need so much. The Float Stones, the Muscle Bands, the Evosodas, you know, the Megaphones in general, your supporters, and your Pokemon line. It's just so high, but fortunately we don't need much to make it work. So 9 total energy does the job with this deck. Spinning Turn is your main attack. Hammerhead, if you can afford the card, and you know, if you need to do it, if you absolutely have to, but your main focus is just going to be Spinning Turn into a Trevenant, Spinning Turn into a Suicune, locking your opponent out of the deck, frustrating them so they can't attack, they can't do what their decks are supposed to do, and it just wins a lot of games. Not to mention, like I said, this deck is so cheap to build. I think Donphans go for a few dollars. They might even be a little bit higher now, just because the deck has built some popularity behind it. Trevenant might be a few dollars. Landorus, like I said, is the most expensive card in the deck. Trainers in general are going to be your most expensive. If you don't have any, those are going to be your biggest cost no matter what deck you build. But the good thing is you can use them in any deck. Trainers, they usually go for a couple dollars a piece, and is probably going to be your most expensive right now out of what's sitting here. And, you know, it's just what you're looking at. If you want to play the game, sometimes you have to spend a little bit of money, but you should be able to purchase this entire deck for, I don't know, maybe like a little, it should be under $200. I would say even less than $150 just because of Landorus. If you don't use Landorus, you can keep it pretty close to $100. It's pretty close. So, hope you guys enjoyed this deck build. Like I said, it's very, very powerful, it's very cheap, and it's just so simple. How can you ignore it? Simplicity is the name of the game here, and consistency is even more important. This deck is consistent, it's powerful, and it does what it's supposed to do. Like I said, this is a deck that feels like it just runs on autopilot sometimes, just how good it is. So, like I said, guys, hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give me a nice, powerful like. Hit that thumbs up button down below. Comment if you got something to say. If you have any suggestions, feedback, anything like that, it's always welcome, appreciated, and we always love the support. Also, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more Pokemon TCG content. We update as much as possible, give you guys the best stuff out there with regionals coming up. Some of them have already occurred, actually. We're going to be doing a lot more of this kind of stuff and playing some matches and things like that, so be prepared for that, guys. Okay, that's it for today. I'm Professor K for the Pokemon Evolutionaries, and we will see you all next time.